He thought she was nobody, just another face in the crowd. He laughed at her, mocked her, and dismissed her in front of everyone. But in just minutes, the billionaire who thought he owned the world would discover that she owned the very building he was standing in. And when he did, his empire and his ego would never be the same again. Stay with me, because this isn't just a story about humiliation and revenge. It's about resilience, about the dangers of arrogance, and about a woman who proved that power doesn't always shout. It whispers. By the end, you'll walk away with one unforgettable lesson. Respect costs nothing, but without it, you can lose everything. Meet Amara Johnson, mid-40s, calm, composed, a black woman who built her empire from scratch. From a childhood in a modest neighborhood where her mother worked double shifts as a nurse to put food on the table. Life wasn't easy. Some nights, dinner was little more than bread and tea. Some days, eviction notices piled at the door. But Amara's mother gave her one rule: never let the world tell you what you can't do. That fire carried her. She studied relentlessly, took side jobs, saved every penny. She bought her first rundown property in her 20s. Failed, rebuilt, and tried again. Brick by brick, deal by deal, she built an empire. And years later, her firm, Johnson Real Estate Holdings, would own some of the most prestigious towers in the city, including this one. But here's the thing, Amara never flaunted her wealth. She preferred to blend in simple outfits, understated jewelry, quiet confidence. Her philosophy? Power speaks loudest when it doesn't need to shout. And that's exactly why, on this crisp morning, she walked into the skyscraper lobby carrying nothing but a slim briefcase and a serene smile. What she didn't expect was to be mocked, openly, by a man who thought he owned the world. The man's name was Richard Stanton, a billionaire investor, known for his luxury cars, designer suits, and ruthless business tactics. He'd been circling Amara's company for months, trying to buy it out, convinced he could save her from what he assumed were bad decisions. But Amara wasn't interested. She didn't build her empire to hand it over to men like him. That morning, Richard didn't recognize her. To him, she looked like an assistant, maybe a secretary, maybe someone in the wrong place at the wrong time. Richard, lost? Are you? Deliveries usually go through the staff entrance. You don't really belong here, do you? Receptionists froze. Security guards looked away, and Richard piled on. Richard, don't worry, sweetheart. You'll get used to places like this one day, maybe as a janitor, or if you're lucky, a receptionist. And Amara? She didn't flinch. She just smiled. Amara, maybe. The elevator chimed. Richard strutted forward. But then, good morning, Ms. Johnson, the head of security said warmly, stepping aside to let Amara through. Richard stopped mid-step. The receptionist stood quickly. Your boardroom is ready. Would you like us to send up coffee? Amara nodded politely. Yes, thank you. In that moment, Richard's smirk died. For Richard, this wasn't just embarrassing. It was career damaging. The same woman he mocked in front of half the lobby was not only his equal. She was his superior. Why, you're the owner, he stammered. Amara raised an eyebrow. Is that hard to believe? He swallowed, his arrogance crumbling. I didn't realize. That much is clear, Amara said firmly. Yes, Amara Johnson, owner of this building, and the one you've been trying to acquire for months. To the shock of everyone in that lobby, the woman Richard mocked wasn't a guest. She wasn't a staff member. She was Amara Johnson, the owner of the building. The same woman Richard had been trying to buy out for months. The irony? She had already rejected his offers. And now, his arrogance had burned his last chance. She didn't need to raise her voice. Her poise carried more power than any insult ever could. And at that moment, everyone in the lobby, receptionists, guards, assistants, felt it too. Hours later, in the boardroom, Richard tried to recover. He pitched his offer again, sugarcoating every word, trying to charm his way back into control. But Amara cut him off. You know, Richard, she said, leaning forward, when you mocked me this morning, You revealed more about your character than any business deal ever could. He shifted uncomfortably. You assumed I didn't belong here, she continued. That I was less. That's the difference between us. You measure worth by appearances. I measure it by substance. The room was silent. Deal rejected, she said firmly. And Richard? This is the last time we'll be meeting. Richard opened his mouth to protest, but the decision was final. He left the building humiliated, not just because he lost the deal, but because he realized he had mocked the very person he needed most. The fallout was immediate. Word spread through corporate circles. The story of Richard Stanton mocking Amara Johnson in her own building and being rejected became legend. Some laughed. Others shook their heads. But one thing was clear. Richard's arrogance had cost him more than a deal. It had cost him respect. Receptionist. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Amara simply nodded, because for her, it was never about revenge. It was about the lesson. Never underestimate people. Never assume based on appearances. And always remember, respect costs nothing, but its absence can cost you everything. Amara walked out with dignity intact. She didn't need to gloat. She didn't need revenge. Because true power doesn't scream. It whispers. And Richard Stanton? He learned the hard way that arrogance blinds us, that appearance is deceiving, and that sometimes the people you underestimate are the ones holding the keys to your future. So what's the takeaway? Respect costs nothing, but its absence can cost you everything. If this story moved you, hit like, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe to Pulse Tales for more true stories that change the way you see the world. Because you never know. The next person you underestimate might be the one writing your future.